What's up, y'all? We back with another video podcast, whatever you want to call it. And today the schedules dropped, man, so everybody know who they playing and when they playing. And if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw me reacting to one of the fake schedules that got dropped. And some people were kind of surprised about my reaction because they were like, "Hey, man, we've been locked in to play these guys for like months now." And my whole pushback on it was, I don't have a problem with who we're playing, but it's just a matter of when we're playing them. You can beat a good team, but it just matters when you beat them. For example, when we beat the Eagles, we beat them in week 2 and they went on to win the Super Bowl. And some of us are saying, well, we beat the Eagles last year, so we're not that bad. And the realistic people are like, okay, but we beat them in week 2 before they figured out, who they really are. And a prime example, or another good example of that, is when we lost against the Panthers in week 18. They finished 5-12, but if you look at their last few games, they were playing really well as a team, even though it didn't translate to wins. So like I said, it's always a matter of when you play a team, not who you play. But getting into the schedule release, I like the way they did it, a Mario Kart theme one. I always grew up playing Mario Kart, but that's kind of irrelevant. So I'm going to put up the picture of my prediction, and I'm going to break it down into 3 different sections. I'm going to do the first 6 weeks, the middle 6 weeks, and the last 6 weeks, okay? So there's 3 different parts that we're going to talk about where I just pretty much highlight the record, some of the key games, and how I feel about that stretch of games, okay? So that's how we're going to lay it out, and let's go and get on into it. Looking at it from the big picture, you see that I have us marked in at 11-6. Now, I did say in the expectations video that we should probably be thinking 9-8, maybe 10-7 at best, okay? And this was before the schedule dropped, and so now that I'm looking at the schedule and I can see who we play, well, I know who we play, but when we play certain teams, and I always kept the philosophy of let's play the good teams early. That way, let's not play the good teams late when we're in, when they've hit their stride and we haven't really been tested. I prefer our team to get tested early. That way we know what they can do, if that makes sense. But breaking down, we get into the first section. So these first 6 weeks, I have us going 3-2, right? We have that early bye week in week 5. A lot of people are complaining about it. I really don't care for it. I understand that, it's very early in the season, and I can agree that it is. But looking at some of the key games I highlighted here are the Commanders and the Bills. Now, I think we beat the Commanders simply because I feel like the only reason we lost that game last time is because, one, it was Penix. Well, it was a few reasons. One, Penix was in the second game. That was a playoff atmosphere game because that really determined if we were going to make the playoffs or not. Okay, we may have had a chance in week 18, but if we won that game, that would have went a long way. But yeah, I do think since our defense is revamped, we have more athleticism, we have more youth. We can keep up with Jaden Daniels, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league today. We can keep up with him, and we can also get stops on defense. Also score now, because outside of like their front seven, their defense really doesn't scare me. And now I do like Trey Amos a lot, my favorite corner out of the draft, outside of Darian Porter, that is. But I think we can really beat that team. I don't think they're bad, but they're last year's Houston, right? Houston Texans, they came in last season, they went like 10-7. Nobody really expected them to be good. Now it's different when you have no expectations. Now everybody's expecting you to be good. So those expectations may bring a little bit more pressure. We don't know. I know Jay's going to rise to the occasion, but I don't know about the rest of the team. I have my thoughts on Dan Quinn, right? Like, I'm not even going to get into all that, but when we play the Bills, I think that game, I think we lose it, but only because we're not experienced, right? Now look at Josh Allen and his team. They're really experienced. They've been to the playoffs a few times, right? That core is there. And I think it's one of those games where we're going to play them close the entire game, but it's just they inch by because, just the young people mistakes, right? You make mistakes when you're a young team. We're all a young team. We have some veterans, but we are a relatively young team, right? And so I think that'll be one of those games where even though we lose and there are no moral victories in the NFL, you kind of think like, okay, if we can hang with the Bills, we can hang with anybody in the league, okay? It's one of those games like that. Kind of like when we, lost to the Chiefs, and that was kind of like, man, we really should have won that game, but we know we can hang with the good teams. We can hang with the best of the best, okay? So, yeah, I have us opening at 3-2, going into the second half of the 6 weeks. And for this 6 weeks, I have us going 4-2. We do start out 1-1. I do think the key games right here would be the Saints and the Dolphins, where it's 2 games that we lose. Now, granted, I do want to say when I'm doing these rivalry games or the division opponent games, I split them out of respect for the for the division opponents because we play them twice a year, right? But I don't expect us to go 3-3. I expect us to go at least 4-2, 5-1. I don't think a sweep is out of the question, but let's be realistic. It's really hard to sweep all your division opponents at this moment. So, do I expect us to lose to the Saints 2 times? No, or at least once. No, not really. But bottom line, when you're talking about that Saints game, I think after a 3-game win streak that I have us slotted at, you can't kind of get lazy and they'll catch you by surprise, especially if it's a division rival, a team that you really don't like, that knows you very well, that you play twice a year, okay? And then also the other key game was the Dolphins that we seem to lose. Now I don't think we will just flat out like lose the game. I think it'll be one of those games like the Buffalo Bills game where I'm not saying the Dolphins are a contending team, but it's like those are like measuring stick games because the Dolphins, when they're healthy, they're a very good team, okay? They can make it to the playoffs. They can't play in the cold, but they are a very good offense. Defense is fine, right? I think it'll be one of those games where it's high scoring, but you see as they start to pull away, okay, we know what we got to do to get better, right? Especially as a defense, right? I think the only thing that'll be tested is our defense. I have complete faith in our offense and Zach Robinson. I'm not worried about that. It's just the defense that I think is going to keep us from winning these games, especially like in the Dolphins game where I'm expecting a shootout. I'm expecting probably like 30-33, 34-38. I'm expecting one of those type of games against the Dolphins. And also one important thing I want to look at is going to Germany and then coming right back and playing the Panthers. I think that will be a tough stretch right there because you're going overseas. Your whole routine has changed, right? I've never flown international, but I already know, like from my experience, if I fly all day, like I've flown from Memphis to Las Vegas, right? As soon as I landed, I was tired, okay? Like once I got off that plane and I got to my hotel, I checked into the hotel. I went to the Mandalay Bay to check in with the NAACP. I got back to my room. I took a nap. I went to sleep because flying takes a lot out of you for some reason, right? Because you're just sitting in that one spot for a few hours, yada, yada, yada. But flying internationally, they may be a big thing right there where it just kind of like takes us for a loop. But I do think we'll be able to pull it off, especially against the Panthers back at home too. So I'm looking forward to that little stretch and see how that shakes up. But then going into the last 6 weeks, once again, I have us going 4-2. I do think we will lose to the better teams in this part of the schedule, that being the Buccaneers and the Rams, which also are 2 of the 3 most important games, I feel like, in this bracket of the schedule. Okay, so let's go in order. So for the Buccaneers, I do think we dropped that. Like I said before, it's out of respect for the division opponents. Okay, they're also a really good team. If you look at the NFC South and their additions, they've all gotten better. I wouldn't say the Saints are out of the question either, because if you objectively now, I know we do not like the Saints as a fan base, but if you objectively look at it, what is a glaring issue on that team outside of quarterback? We don't know what the quarterback's going to look like. Derek Carr's retired, but if you look at the offense is fine. Good offensive line, good running back. They just drafted a good young running back from Kansas, I think. They have 2 good receivers. Okay, the tight end is not that bad. He's about average, like slightly above average. The defense isn't bad. They have issues rushing the passer just like we did. But if you look at their DBs are young. They have upside. They have good safeties. They got Justin Reed, Tyrann Mathieu still playing at a high level. They got the rookie out of Virginia. The linebackers are decent. So if you look at their team from top to bottom, they're not a bad team. Okay, the quarterback is going to be a very most important position in football, right? So if their quarterback isn't that good, they're not going to win games. But if he's just if they're just average, they're going to be a decent team. Okay. The very next game, I think that's an important game, is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I do think that's important because I think they're a similar team to us. Okay. If you look at how their team is like constructed, I'm not saying they're the same, but like look at their situation. The team needs a pass rush. Okay. A talented offense, pieces on defense to be a good defense. Need to add a pass rush. I don't really keep up with what they've done on the offseason, but I do know they added my favorite defensive tackle in the draft, Walter Nolan. He from Memphis, so I gotta support him. Hometown hero. Okay, but I do think like from top to bottom, they're kind of like us as far as talent, identity, all that. They're trying to make the playoffs in the NFC, and we're in the NFC. They're in our way. That's also another measuring stick game to see if we've gotten better, because that's a team that's similar to us, same record, but they were slightly better statistically, okay? And it's going to be like, okay, so where are we at? Like, are we better than you? I think we're better than them. I think we have the better talent. And when we did play them, we should have beat them, because that was Kyler Murray in his first week back after being hurt. And we had Taylor freaking Heineke starting, but that's neither here nor there. And then the last important game right here is the Los Angeles Rams. And I have us losing this because I think this is out of my respect for Sean McVay. He's my favorite coach in the league. Like, he's a very good coach. Probably, arguably, the best coach in the league. It doesn't matter what team he puts out there. They're going to be good, okay? I know he went 5-12 after the Super Bowl, I think, but that was because Matthew Stafford was beat to hell. He barely played, okay? He had like 3 or 4 different quarterbacks playing that season. So you're going to win 5 games. But when he has a consistent quarterback or somebody that's just sitting, like stability rather, I wouldn't even say just a great quarterback, because I think he can win with any quarterback, because that system that he has that we also run, it's just very quarterback friendly, okay? You can maximize any quarterback out of that. That's why I've been wanting them to take a quarterback for the longest, like get a young quarterback, develop him, because y'all will be very good. And I want to see the Rams succeed. But even though that's like, I'm not a Rams fan, but that's a very good team. And I think that'll be a situation where Sean McVay, he just coaches circles around us in a sense. I won't say coaches circles around us, but he wins the coaching battle, where I think, the teams, as far as talent wise and how good they are, it's a push, but the coaching is going to be the differential, right? And I think Sean McVay, with his experience and his, Super Bowl experience, he would edge us out. And to just recap it once again, I have us going 11-6, and we have a few key games here. We also have like 5 primetime games, that's tied for third with like a bunch of other teams, okay? So we'll also be in front of America a fair amount, and I don't like that at all. But that's what happens when your team gets better, because more people want to see you, okay? Especially the Tampa Bay game, because that did numbers. I'm already knowing it did, okay? But this is my schedule prediction. So like I've said in other videos, this is really before you've gotten on grass. So this can really change, right? Just depending on how I see things. I really want to see the defense, because that's going to really tell me if we're going to win more or less games than what I predicted, okay? So that's just how I'm feeling right now. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to like and subscribe for more. I do upload Falcons content. I'm going to start doing it way more. I've been sending every video, and as you can see, I've been uploading way more. But like I said, like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys later in the next video.